Because he resented Michael Jordan's stature and statue. He was jealous of Michael Jordan. True. And many times he lost all perspective on what a great ride that Michael Jordan took Scottie Pippen on, because there is no way Scottie Pippen was a top 50 player.
What?
Michael Jordan made him. Yes.
As you can see, some NBA players are just completely disrespected. Like, to me, the worst type of disrespect is when you bash somebody's legacy just to amp up somebody else's legacy. Like, Skip Bayless obviously loves Michael Jordan, so what does he constantly do? He always talks down on Scottie Pippen. Also, another thing us NBA fans love to do, we always change our opinions of a player when it fits our argument. When Kevin Durant was with the Warriors, Draymond Green was an all-star, he was a superstar. It was 4 superstars on one team and it was completely unfair. As soon as Kevin Durant decides to leave, Draymond Green is back to being a role player. He sucks. It's only going to be 2 stars and they're going to fall off a cliff. Like, as NBA fans, that's what we always do. So with that being said, in this video, we're going to look at some of those more disrespected NBA legends. But before we get into the video, y'all already know what it is. All my OGs, make sure y'all run up them likes. Let's get this video to a good amount of likes, man. That helps me out a ton. Follow my IG, my Twitter, do all that great stuff. And without further ado, let's get into this banger. Now, first on this list, of course, the person I put on my intro, Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen to me has to be one of the most frustrated legends of all time. Because he so happened to play with the greatest player ever, his legacy is constantly dumped on. Like, Shaq has constantly called this man a bum, saying that he wasn't even a part of the scouting reports, it was all about Mike. But honestly, we have to look at it for what it really is. Michael never won a championship without Scottie Pippen and vice versa. Of course, Michael Jordan was the alpha and he was obviously the main guy, but having someone who can take the load off his shoulders defensively at about 26 and 7 and also do a lot of the dirty work, that was truly helpful for that Bulls run. And surprisingly, through their 90s dominance when they were winning championships, so about from 1991 to about 1998, Scottie actually had better numbers than Mike in every major statistic besides scoring, obviously. So you got to start giving Scottie a little bit more credit. He was a part of those championship runs as well, and he has 6 rings, so give him some credit. Now, next on this list, I absolutely had to put Steve Nash. For some reason, some people tend to believe that Steve Nash just stole MVPs and he was just this overrated player of the 2000s. Look at this Bleacher Report article I found in 2008, literally nitpicking Steve Nash's game, calling him overrated. Basically, the article talks about how his handle is overrated, how many turnovers he commits a game, and basically how bad of a defender he is, just nitpicking every single part of his game. Literally, when this article was made, Nash had just led his team to 55 wins, averaged 16 points and 11 assists on another 50-40-90 season, so I don't really get too much of his criticism. I know Steve Nash never won it all, he never won a championship, I get that. But before he joined the Suns, they were 29 and 53. That's about a 35% of winning. Over the next 4 seasons, with Nash obviously, they went 232 and 96, which is about a 70% winning percentage, just under 60 wins per season average. So Nash obviously had an impact. He never won it all ultimately, but he was a winning player, at least in the regular season, and he always got his team in the mix. He just couldn't quite get it done. So give Nash a little bit more credit. He didn't just steal MVPs, he was a great player. Now, next on this list, I put Chris Bosh. I'm not going to lie, I put Bosh on this list simply because of this.
Can you really call Miami a big 3? I know. Yes. Look. What? Bosh is a baller coming in. Bosh is a baller coming in. I'm looking at LeBron. Max. I'm looking at Wade.
Wait, you're saying they're not part of the big 3? It's a big one with Bosh? Are you saying it's a big one with Bosh?
I'm not all the way coming in.
As crazy as that may sound, to be honest, that's not the first time I heard that. Going back to what I said in the beginning of the video, some LeBron stans will actually argue that LeBron was playing with the 45-year-old D Wade and a Chris Bosh that was pretty much a role player. But, I mean, through his time with LeBron and Wade, he did average 17 points and 7 boards with 2 other ball-dominant All-Stars. I mean, obviously, if you know basketball, he wasn't going to put up his Raptors 24 and 12 numbers, but he was always a consistent threat and always pretty reliable when you needed him. We all like to talk about how Ray Allen saved LeBron's legacy with that shot, but we always forget who made that play even possible. Never does he get the credit for that. And even when LeBron left and he decided to go back to Cleveland, Chris Bosh went right back to averaging 21 points and 7 boards. So Bosh's numbers going down wasn't about his talent. It was about him being mature and accepting the lesser role for the betterment of the team. He was just that type of guy. In his last 11 seasons, he made 11 All-Star teams. That's not easy to do. So give Chris Bosh his credit, man. Now next on this list, Charles Barkley. I know we all watch TNT and the show with Ernie, Chuck, Shaq, and Kenny. So for all of us that never saw Chuck play, it's easy to think that he was just some fat scrub who never won a championship because all the Shaq jokes. But let's not let the jokes really be a representation of what Chuck really was. As I said in the other video, Chuck was probably about 6'4" without shoes, playing in the best big man era ever, and he went 15 straight seasons averaging a double-double. 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", averaging a double-double in the best big man era ever. Even if you look at his playoff numbers, it is pure dominance throughout his career. People always bring up the fact that he never won a championship, but look at the other all-time greats that never won a championship in that Michael Jordan dominant era. Dominique Wilkins, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Patrick Ewing, Reggie Miller. I mean, the list goes on and on. No disrespect to Olajuwon, but we don't know if he would have won if Michael Jordan never stepped away. He was that dominant. I know championships mean practically everything in this era, so that's the first thing we think about when we think about Charles Barkley. But let's not forget how great he was in his quest for that championship ring. He just never got it. Still an all-time great and easily one of the best power forwards ever. Now next on this list, actually kind of similar to Barkley, Carmelo Anthony. Look, I'm the most critical person of Carmelo Anthony that I personally know. I always thought he was a little selfish. He didn't take the game serious enough. He didn't maximize his potential. He could have averaged more than 3 assists per game. He just didn't want to. Anyways, even though I'm not a big Melo fan, I always felt like he just fell victim of who he was drafted with. This man was drafted with 4 NBA champions and 2 of the greatest to ever do it. 2 players that willed and led their team to NBA championships, something people wanted Melo to do, but he never did. Sadly for Carmelo, his career is always kind of going to be matched up with LeBron because when they were drafted, they were looked at as a little bit of the new Magic Bird type of rivalry and all this, but it never really panned out like that because LeBron just left him legacy-wise. Despite all that heat and all that criticism that he's going to get, and deservingly so, he's still one of the greatest scorers we've ever seen. For about 14 straight seasons, this man didn't average less than 20 points. That alone is pretty great stuff. It wasn't a championship, it didn't really result in any winning, but it was pretty great for the league. Right now, as we speak, Carmelo's looking for a job and he's kind of the scapegoat on every team he's on. Knicks, they didn't want him anymore. OKC saw no use in him after 1 season. Houston cut him after like 10 games. And now he's kind of looking pathetic, almost begging for a job. I don't care what the circumstances are, you should never see a legend like Melo practically begging and restating his resume and what he's done for the NBA and all this stuff just to get a team maybe like the Atlanta Hawks to give him a shot when we all know what he really is. He's Melo. He just, nobody wants him. Now, last on this list, roll the clip, man.
My turn on. Don't backtrack. He's made all NBA first team twice. Paul hasn't done it. He made all NBA 8 times to your 4. Ooh. He's made all defensive team 3 times to your 0.
Ooh, 0. That's rough.
He's won 1 scoring title. You weren't able to win the scoring title.
That's too bad.
He has 3 rings. You have 1 ring.
Ooh, 3 is bigger than 1.
I know it's funny to talk about Paul Pierce and make fun of him and make him the butt of everybody's joke, but some people actually talk about this man like he was Ryan Hollins himself and he was a whole legend. Let's not forget this man is an NBA champion, NBA Finals MVP, made 10 All-Star teams. All that stuff isn't easy to do. I mean, this man gave some of our favorite players problems. LeBron, Kobe, all that, and he averaged around 25 points in his prime. So let's not act like Paul Pierce was just this bum that talks a lot of junk on TV. He was actually a legend. If you want to bash Ryan Hollins or any other bum that averaged like 2 points per game, when they get on TV they act like they were a legend, all that stuff, that's a little different. But Paul Pierce, we got to show him at least a little respect. That's just that. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys like the video. If you are new to this channel, make sure you subscribe. Follow all of my social media sites. Do all the great stuff. And until next time, as always, stay tuned.